Gaza have, of course, largely overshadowed conflicts elsewhere in the Middle East this month. But today, in Iraq, more than 30 people were killed in a series of car bombs in districts of Baghdad. Meanwhile, outside the Iraqi capital, ISIS has been consolidating its control of northern parts of the country since their capture of Mosul in June. Tonight, we can exclusively reveal the first evidence that British jihadists who had previously joined ISIS in Syria have also been fighting in Iraq. Newsnight's Secunda Kamani joins me now. Secunda, what more can you tell us?
Well, there's been a lot of focus placed on the issue of British Muslims travelling to Syria to join the conflict there. And we know that at least some of them have joined this group ISIS. And we also know that over in the recent months, ISIS have been expanding from their base in northern Syria across the border into northern Iraq. And concerns have been expressed that British Muslims would be fighting not only with ISIS in Syria, but also in Iraq. But until now, we've seen no real evidence of this taking place. I, however, have been speaking to a man called Abu Abdullah, and we should be able to see a picture of him now, there he is. He's a 20-year-old British Eritrean man who's part of ISIS. He's a convert to Islam, and now he says that he, at the moment, is in Raqqa, which is an ISIS stronghold in Syria. But he's just returned there from having fought in Ramadi, which is across the border in Iraq. Now, he's posted photos on his social media site. This is one of them. This is purportedly him at the front of a tank in Ramadi. This is another image of him posing with a gun. Again, he says in Ramadi. We can't be 100% sure these photos are from Ramadi, but his account of being in Iraq has been corroborated by other British foreign fighters in ISIS. And we know that this man, Abu Abdullah, is part of ISIS. He's in fact featured in one of their propaganda videos released over this weekend.
I'm from the UK. My name is Abu Abdullah al-Habashi. I don't think there's anything better than living in the land of Khilafah. The rights, and you're not living under oppression. You're not living under dhulm. We don't need any democracy. We don't need any communism. We don't need anything like that. All we need is Sharia.
Some insight there into his thinking. What do we know about his actions? What has this character been up to?
Well, I've been speaking to him via an instant messaging service, and he told me that he went to Syria 9 months ago, but then he moved on to Iraq because he wanted to be at the forefront of the fighting. I asked him to describe the situation in Ramadi whilst he was there, and this is what he had to say. He said that it is the best fighting and the hardest fighting. You're in a city made of concrete and everything is blowing up. But Iraq is also the place associated with some of the most shocking images released by ISIS. For example, the execution en masse of a group of Iraqi Shia army soldiers. And I asked him how he could justify these types of actions, even if he hasn't been directly involved in them himself. And he just said that actually ISIS treats its enemies the same way that its enemies would treat ISIS members. I also went on to ask him why he was fighting in both Syria and Iraq. Surely these were different conflicts, but this is what he had to say to me. He said that, in his opinion, Shia are Shia. It really doesn't matter what sect it is. If people knew their beliefs, it disgusts me, to be honest. Now, to give you an insight into just how hardcore he is, I'm going to show you a rather shocking image that I must warn viewers is very distressing. This is from his social media account. It's back in Syria, we believe, and he's posing in front of the decapitated body of an army from the regime of the Syrian president Bashar al-Assad. And I asked him how and why he thought this was acceptable behaviour. But he said to me, well, the people love to see the heads of Nasseris, that's a derogatory term for Alawites, President Assad's sect, on spikes. And I feel no sympathy for them because they are enemies of Allah.
Indeed. And what more do we know about him, about his background?
Well, he told me that his family are Christian, but that he converted around the age of 16. He told me that his family do know where he is, that they've been in contact with him. And he said that this is what they say to him, that like any parents, they say to him, come back, you're crazy. He says, I'm here for the sake of Allah and nothing else, so there's no going back. And he went on to say that he is happy there, and that why would he go back to somewhere, to the UK, and make himself unhappy and in bars, i.e. in prison. So he clearly doesn't want to come back to the UK, but this case will raise concern about the spread of British fighters from Syria to other parts of the region.
Kamani, thank you. And we hear tonight of a fresh crisis on the ground in northern Iraq. Human rights groups have reported that 40,000 people